All right, let's jump in. Um, Kevin Vinton unfortunately had emergency, wasn't able to make it this morning, but we will carry on. I think because Sid deserves it. So let's pay tribute to Sid, and we're going to open this up for some discussion later, and I hope a few of you can share recollections as we go forward. All right, well, let's jump in here. Okay, Sid Martin, 1945, and then passed away last year. This picture is, I think, from American Numismatic Society events. And of course, the ANS over the last few years has just had some wonderful scholar benefactors, not, people that just supported the society financially, but really were scholars in their own right. And certainly within American numismatics, this kind of started off in the 1970s with Harry Bass and of course Eric P. Newman and others. And so Sid just did some wonderful work on a number of colonial series, and we'll get into that a little bit more. All right, in terms of biography, Sid was born in 1945, grew up in a military family, achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, went to MIT, and as if getting into MIT wasn't hard enough, he completed his bachelor's and master's work in 5 years, finishing in 1968. Spent most of his professional career in the defense industry. Founded Cytex, it's a defense contractor with several thousand employees. Primarily lived in Pennsylvania, and within the American Numismatic Society, eventually served as president of the board, and was also awarded the Huntington Award in November 2020. And this Huntington Award is their highest award for scholarship. One person a year. It's a pretty select group. I know with Eric P. Newman, he had a whole box full of award medals and certificates and so forth, and he put that one at the top of the list. So he was really proud of that, and I'm sure Sid was too. And then Sid, entrepreneur, started his own company, a philanthropist, very active in nonprofit and charity spaces, and without question a great numismatic scholar. Roger Saboni wrote this wonderful obituary, a recollection of Sid Martin. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend that you Google that. It was published in a few places, and I wanted to just share a few extracts of that because I thought it was so well done. But Roger described him as just one of the most decent, intelligent, and generous, funny, warm-hearted people that he had the pleasure to know. And yeah, absolutely. Another thing I thought was very interesting, Roger pointed out this analytics approach to collecting, and both playing the long game. And I've seen this in a few collectors, and it really does change your approach to this. You don't have to get everything at once. Things come out on the market. You think some coins buried forever. They're not. They always come out. And if you go at it long enough, you'll have an opportunity. So we've seen this in recent years with the Newman and the Bass collections. You might think things are buried in a museum or buried in a foundation, and no, if you're just patient about it, you will get a chance at just a ton of great coins. And when we get started collecting, you know, a lot of us are driven by this idea of completion, and we want to go fast, and you really don't need to do that. You need to, you know, more, you know, be less emotional about it, and really look at over the long haul, when do coins come out. And you know, I think it slows you down a little bit and makes you a little bit more you know, considerate of the situation. Another thing Roger pointed out about Sid was the way he envisioned completeness. And this is a really powerful idea in collecting, I think, especially American collecting, because, you know, since the 1930s, you know, we all had these penny boards, and, you know, it's immediately clear whether you're complete or not. And, you know, everyone had to have the 1909 SVDB. And I think in other collecting cultures, you know, these penny boards, or this idea wasn't necessarily so strongly ingrained. You know, something like ancient coins, you know, there's no list of what you have to have, but within American collecting, 90% of the collectors were basically working on a list by working on a coin board. So this is something that I think has really taken over our collecting, that, you know, I'm not going to say it's right or wrong, but you know, it's definitely a way to analyze what a lot of people are doing. So, but anyway, for Sid, at least, this was a really important idea. And you know, he completed the Connecticut Coppers variety set, to 350 die varieties. So, and you know, you've got to have a lot of determination, and you have to be very compelled by this idea of completeness to make something like that happen. So definitely a consideration in Sid's collecting. Another thought from Roger: we always knew what we spent. There were more coins to be had than we could ever acquire. And this is a really good point. You can't have everything. I heard a similar idea from Jim Halperin a couple of years ago at one of the ANA events. But you know, he expressed the idea that, you know, we didn't have to have, his company didn't have to have the whole market. There was enough to go around. You know, certainly all the auction houses are going to be very competitive for, you know, whatever consignments come through, and try and get everything they can. But, you know, he felt like, you know, we don't have to always beat the other guy in a submission. There's enough for everybody here. So, and I think this is kind of expressing the same sentiment with regard to collecting. You don't have to have everything, and there's always going to be more out there. So, you know, don't be overly greedy. All right. Another thing that Roger recalled was Sid always had a sense of gratitude for the good fortune. I think there's definitely a different approach to life for you know, people who are born into wealth and people who aren't, and especially for people who made their own wealth. You know, I think there's just a wider perspective there, and you know, we saw that reflected in Sid. The next thing that caught my eye in Roger's remarks were this Sid's acquisition of the Breen Library. I thought this was kind of amusing. Talked about the 5 boxes from Breen's estate arriving in Sid's office, and it was like being at a Grateful Dead concert. A lot of this Breen material, excuse me, a lot of the Breen materials been coming out. Especially in the last couple of years. There's a gentleman in Hawaii who has a fair amount of the Breen library remainders. And if you've ordered any of this material, it's been marketed on eBay. But you may have had the same experience when it comes in the mail. It's definitely got some funky smells to it in some cases. And we'll talk about a little bit more about the Breen library that Sid acquired in a little bit. And then finally, Roger pointed out how satisfied Sid was with his acquisition of the 350 Connecticut dye varieties. And you know, again, with a lot of those numbered in the single digits, that's just really an extraordinary thing. Okay, of course, Sid wasn't just a collector. He, in recent years, put out 5 books, and you know, just every single one of them the standard reference for the collecting area. So this is really a remarkable string of publications, starting with the William Wood books in 2007, and moving to the Roses in 2011, and the French colonial coinage, and then finally the St. Patrick's. You'll notice all of these were published by C4, so just a wonderful thing for C4, and you know, shows Sid's commitment to that organization. And then finally, moving in a different direction, which is another thing that Sid was very interested in, was the Washington series. And again, you know, he really wanted to break new ground, so he went after these medals produced for the bicentennial of Washington's birth in 1932. So he wrote a several hundred-page tome compiling all of those issues from 1932, which, you know, of course, complements the Baker series, which more or less covered through the 19th century, and of course recently reworked by Neil Moussant in his 2-volume Washington series. Okay, so let's go into the Sid Martin sales. So the first thing that was sold were the books, which came out this spring, presented by Colby and Fanning. The most key material in the books were these acquisitions that Sid made from the Breen estate. So there were just some wonderful items in there. The key one, of course, being Breen's Encyclopedia, which had been extensively annotated by Breen. I was lucky enough to actually see this volume before it appeared in the spring sale, but just every single page, annotations all over. He clearly was thinking about second edition. And the first one came out in '88. Breen passed away in '93. So even within this 5-year period, he's got literally thousands of updates to that encyclopedia. And there's always people like to point out all the errors in Breen's encyclopedia, and I would just say, you know, don't think that Breen didn't see them too, because he was seriously reworking this. So this is just a wonderful volume. You can see the picture over there. It's completely ratty, but you know, to Breen, it wasn't about the condition; it was about the information. So this is a really neat volume. So that was kind of the star of the sale, sold at $37K. And then Breen had an annotated copy of Crosby from 1875. That one sold strongly. And then Breen's annotated copy of the Miller-Ryder reference. And this was probably really close to Sid's heart because this, of course, covered the Connecticut varieties that sold strongly at 27K. And then there were a few things in the Martin sale that were just not necessarily super valuable items, but were just nicely bound and, you know, very attractive pieces. So his set of first series of American Journal of Numismatics sold at 10K, and there were a few other sets similarly in the sale of you know, sets of periodicals that were complete and very nicely bound, and these performed quite well also. All right, so following the literature sale, we've had a couple offerings from Stax Bowers of the Martin sales. Part one was in August, part two is in November. There will be many more parts. As I understand it, it's going to be a multi-year affair, so there will be a lot more really neat things coming out here. But the first sale, we have some of the state coinages, also the St. Patrick's, and this first sale also included the Libertas medals. So let's just look at a few highlights from the first sale in August. This Higley copper sold at 192. This was a private copper issue from Samuel Higley in Connecticut, who had a copper mine. There's very few of these. There's so few that Dan Freitas was able to enumerate every single one that exists in a ANS Coinage in the Americas conference article. I believe he found about 50 or 60 pieces. This one you see here is really nice for a Higley, pretty well detailed. And of course, the obverse inscription, value me as you please, is thought to be a bit of plausible deniability, in case anyone knocked on his door and said, why are you issuing coinage you're not supposed to? And he could just say, well, I'm just, you know, making these tokens, and people want to assign value to them, they can do so. So again, you know, this was kind of the star of the Higleys in the August sale. All right, everyone's favorite, the Libertas Americana medal. This project was managed by Ben Franklin when he was the minister to France, early 1780s, and has grown in, just tremendously grown in popularity over the last 10 or 15 years. So there's a number of silver pieces, perhaps 30 or 40, and then you know, maybe a couple hundred of the bronze ones. And you know, it's the iconography on this one is just wonderful. You've got of course this bold liberty that's facing west, facing America, and then we have this wonderful symbolism on the reverse with you know, Hercules is America in the center, and then we've got the lion representing England on the right, with Minerva toward the left, which symbolizes France. It's kind of protecting the baby. So this was just has always been a popular medal, and was, you know, Franklin put it in high places when he produced it. So a lot of dignitaries getting these, and which I think in part, you know, explains some of the historic popularity of the medal, that it was put in high places. If, you know, these were just randomly distributed to less important people, perhaps not as popular today, and perhaps examples would be a lot more worn than they are. So in any case, this is this price is consistent with what really nice silver pieces have been getting. All right, and then this is just a wonderful piece. Anytime you have a piece of colonial copper or early US copper that has any red in it. It's just, to me, an amazing thing. And this one, Stax described as nearly full mint red. I would not disagree. And of course, this is one of the state coinages issued prior to the founding of the mint, the federal mint in 1792. And these New Jersey ones, just tremendously popular. I think there's about 100 or 125 different varieties. And in this case, I'm not sure the variety is nearly as significant as just the wonderful aesthetic condition of this piece. The color is just fabulous. All right, and then moving on to the St. Patrick's. This is one of our more enigmatic issues. We're not completely sure of why they were made or how they were valued at the time. But this is a nice silver one. And then, again, most of these were copper, so why would you have silver ones? Not really clear. But in any case, this is a really nice example of a silver piece. And this one sold at $43,000. All right, moving on to the recent fall sale, which was held at the Whitman Baltimore Expo. This included French colonial pieces, Connecticut coppers, and then the second session was the Washingtoniana. And this was a really nice event. There was a post-sale tribute by the C4 organization. They had recently created the Sid Martin Award Medal to recognize authors, prominent authors in that organization, and they presented an example of this medal to the Sid Martin family at that time. All right, so this was really the star of the sale. 1670 Double de l'Amérique. This is the first use of America on a coin, and struck in the Paris Mint for the French New World, such as it existed at that time. And this one just went crazy and went up to $500,000. So just an amazing result for an amazing coin. All right, moving on to a couple of the Rosa Americana pieces. This was a Crosby plate coin, finest of three known. These were produced by William Wood under patent from the king. And he was basically bidding to produce coinage for the North American colonies, kind of the converse of the French situation we saw on the last slide. And this is a super nice example. And then another Rosa piece, so pattern 2 pence, one of three known, with auction appearances back to 1817, which is a nice thing we get in English coinage. The pedigrees go back a little bit further, since Sotheby's was active as early as the late 1700s. They're doing auction sales. And since then have produced a couple thousand auction sale catalogs. So there's some wonderful things in these. This piece goes back to 1817. There's an interesting story associated with this particular issue. The Bushnell, the American collector, had acquired a piece, and it was being shipped to him. And the ship it was on went down. So there is a fourth piece somewhere in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, probably highly corroded by now. But in any case, this was a really nice one from Sid's collection. All right, moving on. This is where we learn a little bit about Sid's urge for completion. Let's be clear. This is kind of an ugly coin. You've got what looks like some corrosion on there. Not in the best condition, but it's unique. So, and if you're going to have a complete Connecticut set, you got to have this piece. So different things, you know, produce different motivations in collectors. And a lot of collectors would say, well, if I got 57,000 spent on a coin, maybe I want to get like a piece of US proof gold or something that's shiny and looks nice. But no, different motivation here. So this is the cracked head variety. Never appeared at auction. First appeared on the market about 20 years ago, probably a ground find, although that was not confirmed in the recent Stax catalog. But anyway, was handled by Mike Ringo, who placed it in the Robert Martin collection, a great collector and research of Connecticut coppers. And then published in 2004, acquired by Sid, and then came out in the Martin sale and sold quite strongly. All right, moving on to the Washingtoniana. I like the term Washingtonia better. I think it rolls off the tongue a little bit nicer, but that's not the word people use. They use Washingtoniana, so we'll go with that. This is the Roman head cent. Breen kind of read the tea leaves on this one. He said, well, that bust looks kind of effeminate. I think maybe this is a satirical issue. The recent Stax catalog backed off of that a little bit more and said, no, these were probably more likely made for people who were collecting Washington tokens in Britain at the time. In any case, there's very few of these known. And this particular piece sold strongly at 132. So the format of the coin is it's consistent with what was in some early versions of the U.S. Mint Act for 1792. So clearly the maker either had access to that document or had access to other similar pieces at the time, because there's a few other things coming out in 1791, 1792 that have this Washington bust with Washington president of legend and eagle on reverse. So these sort of are all grouped together. In any case, this piece did well at auction. All right, another Washington piece. This one's super popular, is the Washington Funeral Medal. Sold at 66,000, and in gold, which of course is always the best whenever you can get something in gold. These were produced by Jacob Perkins in Massachusetts, and believed to have been struck by him and distributed at the civic profession held in Boston. And these civic processions were held all over the country, and Perkins may have distributed these pieces at other processions as well. They were not hard to find. There were a lot of them going on. And of course, this veneration of Washington, this is really a strong theme in American culture, especially in the first half of the 19th century. And for those of us who are maybe a little bit older, we probably felt this a little bit more strongly as kids than we do today. But in any case, looking through history, it's always good to keep in mind this veneration of Washington that's been a real force in American culture. Okay, moving on, the Seasons medals. These are a little bit like the Libertas in that they were all commissioned to be done overseas. So when the Libertas was produced, we didn't really have the artistry or the technology to make those in the States. So they sent it over to Franklin. They said, you know, you deal with this, and he lined up everything on the French side. Same thing here, except it was managed by Rufus King, the American minister in Britain. So there's 3 of these that illustrate domestic scenes. And these were intended as Indian peace medals. Julian has them in the Indian peace medal series. And this one sold strongly at 132. Okay. So wrapping up here, I saw this photograph on the internet, and I just thought it was wonderful. This is Sid and Roger hanging out at the 2008 Baltimore shows. You know, they could easily be wearing suits and sitting in boardrooms, but no, they're just they're hanging out in a coin show in jeans and a leather jacket, and I'm sure having just a wonderful time. And of course, they're looking at a book because you know, Sid loved coins, but he also loved books. So just a wonderful photograph to wrap things up. I'm going to at this point, I'll open it up for questions, or you know, if people want to comment a little bit, we'd love to hear more about people's recollections of Sid. And you can just raise your hand and I will unmute you. So feel free to jump in with any questions or any comments. Obviously, we have more stuff coming from the Sid Martin collection from Stax, and we will look forward to seeing more goodies from his collection. So, and as I noted, I think that'll be going on for a while. There's just a huge amount of material. So any questions or observations, just jump into the chat. And, let's see if we've got anything coming in here. All right, we had a question came in. Is there an outline from the upcoming Stax Power sale of his collection? Basically, what will be offered when? That I cannot answer. So, but I'm sure Stax will be making announcements about that. And you know, it could be they. I shouldn't speculate too much, but they may not even have that all charted out yet. So, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it as they continue to work through the collection. Any other questions out there? Comments, personal observations about Sid? I'll give it another minute here. Let's see. Next question. What do you think is the split among collectors? How many are Washington collectors versus general medals? Good question. My guess is there's more collectors of general medals out there. Just because the field is so wide and there's so many ways to approach it. You know, Washington is one of the, you know, specialties within metals, obviously. You know, certainly the Washington series is probably the best documented. So, if people are looking for a checklist, they're definitely available in the Washington series where they might not be in others. Next, this is good. I was on the floor, and I can assure you that the winning bidder on the ugly Miller piece that cracked up Connecticut that we showed was not happy about spending what he did, but could not have been happier buying it. So yeah, It sounds like there's another collector out there who had the same urge for completion that Sid did, and wasn't pleased that apparently somebody ran him up on it, but was thrilled that he got it. So that, I mean, that's great. That's great. That's what collecting is all about. Another comment, I wish I could have met him, came too late to the field. Yeah, you know, what I would say about this is, you know, get to know the collectors that are here. Sid was a wonderful person, but there's you know, there's wonderful collectors still out there. So, you know, to sort of take that as a message that you know, get to know people while you have the opportunity. Next comment, nice job in explaining Sid's refreshing outlook on collecting. Well done. Thank you. Let's you know, thank people like Roger Saboni, who you know, took the time to save some of their recollections. Next question. Never had a chance to meet Sid personally. Felt honored to own his books and purchased several linear feet of books from his library, as well as a couple coins. Yeah, absolutely. You know, coins, you know, you get a link to a collector through their coins, but you know, their books as well. Next comment, in his quest for completeness, did Sid sacrifice going after the finest? In other words, did he need the finest example, or was he satisfied with owning an example? My guess is that he did a lot of upgrades. Somebody who knows him more personally can probably answer that better than I did. But I think, you know, especially the Connecticut's attempting a set of that nature. You know, a lot of pieces you'd be tempted to acquire just because you don't know if you'll ever have another opportunity, and then maybe an upgrade comes. Next question, what are the best reference books on the market that cover colonial American coinage? This is a tough one to answer. I'll just obviously Crosby 1875 is a classic. Arguably the most important book that's ever been written on American numismatics, is available in more recent reprints from Quarterman Publications. So that's a must-have. In terms of general references, you know, the Breen Encyclopedia has got a lot of stuff in it. I like the Bowers overview from Whitman for the price of the book. It's, you know, it's probably the best value with respect to books about colonial American coinage. And then after the general guides, there are these, you know, just all these very specific books that go into different series. But you know, in terms of the general ones, I like the Bowers book. Next comment, Sid was also editor to the C4 newsletter for more than a decade. Yeah, that's huge for anyone that's been involved in editing publications. To take that on for 10 years, that's a labor of love and a gift to the C4 organization, and you know, it just expresses what Sid, you know, thought of the C4 organization, that, you know, it was worthy enough for him to dedicate all that time to it. So just a wonderful tribute to that group. Next comment, the last picture you shared, Roger Saboni's name is misspelled, and the numismatist to the right is actually Jack Young. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. All right. Okay, I think that may be it for the comments. So we will wrap it up there. We have coming up also in the program, I want to make sure everyone's aware, we have a feature video for the American portion of the ANS collection is on the program, so I definitely urge everyone to watch that. We've got another one today at 4 o'clock Eastern time. John Albanese will be on talking about the new CAC grading company. So I think a lot of people will find that to be of interest. And then a number of other programs over the next couple days. So thanks for attending. Great start to this year's or this fall's NMP Symposium, and we will see you at the other sessions. Thank you.